All right, we're recording. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Second Take. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since our last podcast, but we're back here with NHL edition. Season started a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and it is in full swing. But today I'm joined with again Ryan Janechill. Most of you guys know him from a previous podcast, but we're newly joined by Sawyer Von Jess. Sawyer, how are you today?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Good, doing great. Happy to have you on. I know you two boys are on the club hockey team here at GW, and so your puck knowledge is welcome today, and hopefully we can get into a really good conversation about that. But I just wanted to start off with a little bit of an alley oop question. What are your first impressions about this NHL season, and what do you think about? I believe the Golden Knights being undefeated. Is that right? Are the Golden Knights undefeated?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Only team left.
Only team left and reigning champion. So what do you guys think about that, and what are your expectations for this season?
It's a good Knights team, and they showed that last year. Obviously, going all the way, and they're starting the year really healthy, which is something they haven't really done. Since probably 2019. Stone, Eichel, all healthy. Barbashev, I know he had a little bit of a rough start to the year, but I bet he's figuring it out now. And Shea Theodore, Pietrangelo, all just talented players. And when they're all healthy, they're such a good team that, they can mask whatever flaws they have, maybe in depth or, in the bottom six. So, I'm not surprised they're the last team still undefeated, just as reigning cup champs. And they've won a lot of hockey games.
Yeah, I mean, as people kind of say early in the season, you have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt. But the points still matter the same, and no one's surprised that they're at the top of the board right now. And their system's really strong. And even though they've been super aggressive in acquiring players rather than developing, they've still shown that they can develop specific players with late round picks or undrafted free agents or sort of under the radar fringe NHL players. They've been super good at acquiring them and then adding them to the depth of their lineup, which is a sign of a cup team.
Yeah, interesting feature there. And then another team that I wanted to talk about early on is the Bruins. Of course, they had their record-breaking regular season last year. I know, Janie, you're a Bruins fan, aren't you? Right?
I'm religiously a Bruins fan. That game last night really upset me. It was pretty much classic 2021-22 Bruins. Let up late goals, losing overtime. They were a tired team last night, and I was definitely thinking it was some sort of a trap game. Anaheim's young, hungry. Hate to see it end like that, but this Bruins team, it's such a different team. No Bergeron is just, it's such a weird thing. And my whole life just been watching, Bergeron, Krejci, not seeing those guys in the black and gold is really something that is going to take a while to, adapt for me. But, as Sawyer knows, for the many texts I've sent him, I'm a big Matt Patra guy right now. He, I believe, currently leads rookies in points. So, Calder, calling it right now. But, he's been very big in filling that right shot center role that's been missing with no Bergeron, no Krejci. And it's such a deep team defensively that, the Bruins have played 7 games this year, and only one of them they've allowed more than 2 goals. And in only one of them, they've scored more than 3 goals. So it's low scoring hockey at TD Garden. And good old defensive hockey. It's a good team. I'm going back and forth on where I think they'll end up this year. As Sawyer knows, I've been pretty negative, and then I got pretty positive about them. So, it's a team obviously reeling off of that last year. I was unfortunately at Game 7. That was very brutal. One of the worst experiences. But I think this team figures it out a little, but they got some tougher teams coming up, especially on Saturday. So
yeah, they're a team that's going to rely on their back end, rely on their goaltending. If they can find out a way to get some consistency through the middle of the ice and some good chemistry, they can kind of assimilate like how a Minnesota team has done the past few years, where they haven't really figured out having a top line center. But with guys like Kaprizov on the wing, they can kind of shelter that and have a sort of defense by committee. And who knows, maybe they get aggressive and add someone, or someone like Zaka really blossoms into a he and Poitras and Quayle can maybe really make a decent down the middle, like 1-2-3 punch.
So are you a Bruins fan as well?
A little bit. I like Boston sports, but I'm mainly for the NHL focus on the Red Wings.
On the Red Wings. Okay, well, that perfectly segues me in my next point. A name Alex DeBrincat. Played for the Senators, the Blackhawks. I was talking to my roommate this morning, and he said Alex DeBrincat is the perfect fit on the Red Wings. What do you think about that? What do you think about his successes this year, and could he be potentially the piece they needed to make this team great?
He was definitely a missing piece. Similar to, I guess, what our GM says, Steve Yzerman, he's not going to be the last piece we need. We're still pretty far off from being a cup team, and that's what he's trying to build at the end of the day. But he has also shown that each year we need to get better and better. And considering we're going to be sort of looking at Ottawa Buffalo model and trying to jump one of those teams in the Atlantic and make the playoffs, getting these early points in the year still matter, because even if we're a pretty consistent team throughout the year, having a good early start just puts points in the banks and gives us a little bit of a advantage. DeBrincat's been great. We've been missing a scorer for a while. As we sort of added to the depth after Steve Yzerman's first year as GM, there was not a lot of talent on the team, and he started to kind of accumulate some. And DeBrincat being a young player, a goal scorer, the last couple of years, there's really been no one for Larkin to feed the puck to. So he's definitely a big piece. And another big impact for him is the fact that he grew up in Michigan, and the fact that he can be close to home now and have his grandparents help out, or his parents help out with his newborn, is been a huge relief for him. And he's been playing a lot better than he did in Ottawa, just a lot more comfortable. And again, when you add good players like that, it pushes everyone down the lineup into roles that they're more fitted to. And so it just adds talent and depth everywhere. And he and Larkin seem to have instant chemistry, and they're both going to have 70+ points this year.
Jenny, you have anything to say about DeBrincat or the Red Wings in general?
I just, as the years have gone on, I've sort of kind of become a Red Wings fan too, just from the amount of times I have to hear about them, just from, this kid right here. And, I've always been a big Alex DeBrincat guy. I can't say I was shocked it didn't go great in Ottawa, playing second line role behind Brady Tkachuk. I would have thought there was going to be a little bit of problems there. But seeing him thrive in a Red Wings jersey, especially being a Michigan kid, is special. And I didn't really remember how good of a scorer he really was, or for whatever reason, the last few years, just kind of under the radar to me. But now that he's back scoring, it's this guy has some magic touch.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that team comes together with obviously the more pieces that they need. But then another team that I sort of wanted to learn a little bit more about, my Capitals. Good 2018, and prior to that, not bad in recent years, just couldn't get it done in the big moments in the playoffs. But then this year, obviously, bottom of the pack, not playing the best hockey. Young team or rebuild, or just nothing in the future?
Some sort of all of those. It's not really a young team. They got a couple young
actually
kids.
The second oldest.
Yeah.
Really?
Not a young team.
Yeah,
McMichael's pretty young.
Yeah.
But its core is a little. A lot of them are getting up there in age.
Okay.
Oshie, Ovi, Backstrom, all over the age of 35, I think it is. So, yeah, I don't know. Washington might be a little down here, and Ovi's taking 14 shots a game, which is ridiculous.
That's unheard of, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. They're looking to move Mantha right now and clear some cap space, and maybe they can add something else. They've always had rumors with Kuznetsov. They need him to sort of re-find his form as a point-per-game player, because that'll really elevate everyone else. They just can't rely on Ovi and Backstrom as much as they used to. They need other guys around there. And they found Strome's been a good fit there. Carlson being healthy is big for them. But it is tough when teams are already starting to sort of circle like sharks around TJ Oshie. He's definitely going to be a name to look at around the deadline if they're not in a place. But another thing they've struggled with is Kemper hasn't really played a ton in general yet, like goaltending. So I don't think that it's still early. Like they could still find some form and get back into it. Hopefully these young players take another step, but they're not in a great spot right now. They don't have a ton of prospects or picks for that matter.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that are really, really into the Capitals like farm system or whoever's coming up, and there's just nothing. So I mean, as a DC sports fan and someone who's trying to get more into hockey, you want to see a team do well, but obviously it's going to be pretty rough in the coming years. But let's talk about, like, I guess, a brighter spot in the NHL. I have to mention it, Connor Bedard. I've been hearing his name as like one of the most highly touted prospects and young players ever in the history of all sports. Just wanted to hear your guys' take on it, impact in Chicago, and what, like, obviously we know the ceiling for this kid, but where do we see him this year?
Yeah, Sawyer and I have had a lot of conversations about the Rookie of the Year voting stuff, and just with like the odds and stuff on that. And Connor McDavid didn't win the Calder his rookie year. I know that was because of injury, but it's tough. Well, obviously, fantastic player. We got to start with that. Already just such a talented player. And I think he's 2 goals on the year. Had a third against Boston that got actually waved off due to an offsides overturn, which a little bit of a touchy call there. But he's such a good player. But I don't know if Rookie of the Year all the way right now. But the league will make it look like that. Definitely for him though, generational talent, and he's going to take this league by storm. But it's also the cast of characters around him aren't fantastic. And Taylor Hall, their probably biggest offseason acquisition, got hurt. So he's not really playing on a line with anyone who's really up to his caliber of skill. I don't even know who his line mates are currently. I know he had Donato for a little, but yeah, he's such a good player. I had the privilege of watching him live or on TV scoring his first NHL goal. That was pretty awesome. Such a good player, though.
Yeah, I mean, he broke a ton of records. His shot is insane, and I think you're going to continue to see that from top draft picks over the next couple of years. As these young guys are becoming more skillful, know how to use deception more often. You know how to sort of put their stick and flex at certain points that older players just didn't grow up using, so they didn't understand like that skill and the technology of it. I think you're going to continue to see players like that over the next couple of years. But him specifically, yeah, already a top 5 shot in the league. And his zone entries and zone exits are fantastic. He really is already sort of transitioning that team in all aspects of the ice. But again, you see teams are really highlighting him because they know there's not much else. So his point totals might suffer from that, but he's going to learn how to find open space. I think after a couple months, as teams sort of figure out where they are, they're going to look to add some skillful players with big cap hit numbers that teams are looking to offload, and they can kind of give them some more people to play with and give some minutes to. In terms of Rookie of the Year, they talked about how McDavid did almost win it just because of like sort of the aura around him and how much it's a human award where humans are voting on it, so they wanted it to go to him. But I think that with enough points from a guy like Matthew Nyes in Toronto, they might just have to give it to someone like him.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of like, to compare it to other sports, obviously Wembanyama. It's sort of that level of hype, and I just hope. I mean, he seems like a good kid. Seems like he's raised right, and hopefully, I'm talking like he's like not my age. But yeah, I hopefully he does well in the league. I think it's great to see these come up. So
yeah, it takes time sometimes with hockey. And we saw Jack Hughes. People kind of expected him to have a slow start, and he kind of did, and now he's leading the league in points. Put up over 100 points last year. Like they expect. Sometimes you have to expect 2 years of sort of them to put on weight and muscle and sort of understand the league.
Well, that brings you to the next point that I wanted to bring up about the Hughes brothers. You have a Red Devils. Yeah. Yes, it's the Red Devils, right? No.
Just
New
the
Jersey
Devils.
Devils.
Oh, it's the Devils. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just had a mind lapse. Yeah. The Devils. I think, for that team, I watched a lot of the Devils hockey this past year when they were in the postseason because one of my roommates when I was studying in Barcelona was a massive Devils fan, would stay up till 5 a.m. watching the games there. And, it's early. It's early, but they did lose, I think, 6-4 to the Caps a couple nights ago. Granted, they were down 3-0, and then they went up 4-3, but then they ended up losing. Regardless of that, early in the season, what does this Devils team have that could bring them back to that point that they were at in the postseason last year? And do they have enough to go all the way? Because then they're really good at the goaltending position. I know that. And then you have the Hughes brothers. And I think there's a couple more positions there that they're pretty solid at. So what do we think about that?
I mean, I think that their top six is maybe the best in the NHL, especially for the regular season. I think as the playoff becomes there's a little bit more time and space in power play, so it kind of transitions into playoff hockey a little bit better. I think that they might need to reformulate the roster a little bit and maybe move on from some of the younger pieces down the lineup and add some more proven winners, some like more veterans, older guys. Maybe you said just push some of the guys. Like if Holtz doesn't have a big year, you just add some more depth so you don't have to rely on a guy like him. You can kind of have a bigger, grittier player. I think that they'll figure it out with 80. They have 82 games to figure it out. Like they're going to figure it out as a team. Their coach is going to get them ready. A big piece is they're going to need Luke Hughes and possibly Nemec to develop a little bit more because not having Ryan Graves or David Severson seem to hinder them on the blue end and sort of that structure and reliability and be able to eat up minutes. So they're going to need to find someone else to eat those minutes on the back end. But I think that they'll figure it out by the end of the year and they'll be a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it sort of said the top 6 is just fantastic. And even the third line guys who get kicked out of the top 6 just, by process of like depth chart. I believe is Dawson Mercer playing on the third line or something now? And he's
sometimes Meyer is.
Yeah, like there's guys that are so talented that are playing third line minutes. And Lindy Ruff doesn't actually look like a placeholder coach here, which is pretty shocking after 2021, 22. That team looked kind of dead in the water with the fire Lindy chance. I'm a big Devils guy on their future. I really think that this team, once after 82 games, it's just, from it's just the playoffs and you got to go from there. But I do think this team will be able to figure it out and make some sort of deeper run than they did last year.
Yeah, I want the Devils to do good. I mean, it's just a lot of people in this area are from Jersey and obviously support them. Northeast as well. So you got a lot of big teams there. I wanted to move into, I guess we're running short on time, but I wanted to get into sort of predictions for this year. I just want to know who your dark horse pick is for this NHL season to do well or to make it far. The obvious favorite in your opinion, and then your hottest take for this NHL season. So in any order, give me those, please. Off the top of your head, doesn't even have to be.
It was dark horse, hottest take.
Dark horse, hottest take, and then favorite.
Favorite. I mean, right now,
yeah,
Colorado and Vegas out of the West have been dominant. And I really like how those rosters are constructed. And although Carolina struggled to keep the puck out of their net right now, going into the year roster wise, super strong. They did have a tough injury in their back end, but I think going into the playoffs, those will be the 3 teams that make it out of the first round for sure. I'd be very confident in that.
Yeah. My dark horse a little this year, to Sawyer's delight, is Detroit. Through 8 games, I've just been really impressed with that team, and for all the reasons we talked about. And Sawyer wants to see Hockey Town with playoff hockey, and would you say Big Al's going to show up, the octopus? That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. My dark horse is that Calgary, I'll say, and Vancouver make the playoffs in the Pacific, and more specifically, out of Vancouver, Elias Pettersson's gonna. Maybe it's not as much a dark horse now, but he's gonna get a ton of Hart votes this year. He's gonna be in the top 3 for the Hart Trophy.
It's I'm really trying to think of something here. You know, I'm gonna say Tampa. Tampa kind of falls out of the playoff picture here, and I think it'll be maybe by a point or two. It's not going to be by a lot. I think Vasilevsky being hurt to start the year is really crucial, and Jonas Johansson not really an NHL goalie. I know he had a shutout last night. It was the Sharks though. So I think Detroit will take over that spot, and maybe a team like Florida gets the 4 in the Atlantic and, you know, pushes Tampa out to the 5. And then Stamkos goes somewhere else in free agency.
Yeah, maybe this one isn't as much of a hot take. Maybe Pettersson and the Hart in Vancouver is more of my hot take, I guess. But another team I'm super curious to look at. I think I just hate betting against them. I know last year they didn't make the playoffs for the first time in a while, but it always sticks in my mind from the last 3 years, besides last year, how no matter where they are in the middle of the season, Crosby and Malkin just figure it out. They'll get hurt. They'll both be hurt, and Pittsburgh just finds a way. And I know that they're struggling right now to figure out how Erik Karlsson fits into their team. And he's a player that people talk about you need to sort of build, not just get power play minutes to, but you have to kind of build your structure around him so that he can excel and be the best player, like arguably the best defenseman in the world. But I think Pittsburgh, if they get into the playoffs, they can really make some noise because they have the guys. They have Crosby and Malkin, Jake Gensel, and they just always figure it out. If they can get their third line figured out, they have a great GM now. I'm just curious to see how they navigate the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's a loaded Metro. Really, it really is. And because you get the Islanders too, you know, that team always just plays some sort of, they're so structured hockey. It's actually painful to play against from the look of it. Especially with Bo Horvat now too. He's a fantastic player, him and Barzal, and then Nelson and Lee in one of the best pure fourth lines in the NHL with Clutterbuck, Cizikas, and Matt Martin. I still get trauma from the 21 playoffs when they victimized Boston, but and somehow the Flyers are still doing well. I don't know how much I really trust that at all, but you know, Tortorella, just the system.
Yeah, I mean, those sound great to me. As I said, I want to get in hockey. But I just think over the past few years, hockey's grown, in my opinion. I think what needs to happen is just needs to get a little more coverage. It's not exactly posted all over your highlight reels on Instagram. I know SportsCenter, ESPN, they don't really post hockey. But hopefully that's a part of the initiative, I guess, to grow the sport in the next couple of years. That's all I had on my end, but I did want, before you guys go, to bring something up that we haven't talked about today in the NHL or in hockey in general that you really wanted to talk about. One thing that I really wanted to talk about, just separate, we'll do 3 separate points. I have a friend that I also met studying abroad in Barcelona. His family friend is the head coach of the Badgers hockey team, Wisconsin Badgers hockey team, and they just beat the Gophers, so the number 1 team in the country. So I found that to be very interesting. Hopefully that program cracks the top 20, which they haven't in the past few years. So that is my, I guess, highlight point. What do you guys have?
Big Ten hockey. There's nothing like it. It's really good right now. Big Ten hockey is fantastic. And I've always been a big college hockey guy. Always been a big BU fan and UConn as well, just going to games and stuff. Can't say I've ever seen Wisconsin play, but I definitely am going to start tuning in. If they take down Minnesota, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, ton of NHL talent joining college hockey, which is kind of there's a new wave of a lot of top 5 picks have been playing in college, whether they're from overseas or Canadian boys. And especially at BU and BC right now, their new coaches are kind of fighting for all the top prospects. They have all the biggest recruits right now. And another shout out to Sacred Heart. beautiful new barn I got to witness. It's a gorgeous hockey rink, perfect for college hockey, and they're hoping to make the jump into hockey in the next couple of years, which is exciting.
Awesome. Well, that's all I had. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
I'll note really quickly, just because we didn't talk about them at all. Dallas Stars are very good. I just feel bad that we didn't talk about them because they have arguably the best defenseman in hockey right now, and they're just a loaded team. So I feel like we just need to say Dallas Stars.
And Jake Ottinger might have the best contract for a goalie in the NHL, in my opinion.
What's the structure?
It's like it was like a 3x4 something, but he's a top 5, probably a top 5 goalie in the NHL, and he's making about $4 million, which is just fantastic.
I'll tell you. Well,
JHL.
I wanted to say thank you to all our viewers. For those of you obviously who don't know these two boys that play on the GW Club hockey team, they had the chance to play at Capital One Arena a couple weeks ago. It's really cool to see them play. But that's Tyler. That's Kucho who just walked in for our viewers too. So remember the name. Hopefully you'll hear about him in the future. But Sawyer, Ryan, thank you guys so much. This is amazing for me. It was a learning experience for me about hockey. Really want to have you guys on again for a hockey podcast. I know there's a lot of interest in it around our campus, and so if we can grow it, have you guys run a couple podcasts, that'd be fantastic. But thank you guys very, very much.
Yeah, we appreciate the time, and we do this in our free time anyway. So it was nice to have an outlet.
Awesome. Yeah. It's usually just on FaceTime though, and we're usually just complaining about our teams, but I like this more.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much. And to our viewers on Second Take, we have a lot more coming your way. So stay tuned.